The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there. I'm going to give it a few minutes, or not a few minutes, but a little bit, probably like 30 seconds, and let people get into the room, and we'll start the webinar shortly. Appreciate everybody who's showing up today. We're excited to share this partnership that we're endeavoring in. So thank you for showing up. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then people can continue to roll in while we start. Wait till the presentation mode happens.
Sorry, 1 second.
That's okay, no worries.
It's always something. Okay. I clicked that button I said I wasn't going to do.
We'll get started in just a second, folks. Yeah, I can at least, oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julie Bates. Thank you for joining our webinar on opportunities to increase walking, biking, and rolling in Alaska's communities. This presentation is part of a series of webinars provided by the Alaska Division of Public Health, Section of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. And this webinar series was created to provide a way for us to talk about our projects and explore ways we can work together. Next slide. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping items to go over. If you are listening by phone, please keep it on mute. Please do not put this call on hold. If you receive a call, please hang up and call back in. The webinar is planned for 30 minutes, a 20-minute presentation followed by 10 minutes of questions and answers. A recording of today's webinar will be sent to all participants, and the slides will be made available online soon. And then also we have a lot of links in this presentation, so we will include links when we send out the email. Next slide, please. Audio for this webinar will come through your computer or telephone. If you called in, please hold questions until the end of the presentation unless you have technical difficulty hearing or seeing the webinar, then please let us know. To ask any type of question, you can type it into the questions on the control panel. We can also unmute you and you can ask your question using either the microphone on your computer or with your phone if you called into the webinar. Just raise your hand by clicking the hand button. Thank you again for joining, and we will now start the webinar.
Thanks, Julie. This is Josie Doherty. I'm a public health specialist with the State of Alaska Division of Public Health's Physical Activity and Nutrition Unit, and my focus is on active transportation initiatives. And let me go ahead and enable my webcam. There we go. So today my partner Julius Adelson and I will be talking about the new federal bipartisan infrastructure law. Julius is from the Alaska Department of Transportation's statewide bike ped coordinator and rural transit planner. One of the many things that this law did was to codify and expand eligibility for active transportation projects. The next several years will be an exciting time for opportunities that support walking, biking, and rolling in Alaska. And Julius will be diving deeper into these expanded programs later in our presentation. But first, I wanted to briefly share a little about active transportation, what it is, how it improves health, and to highlight some related projects that our program is currently supporting. So first off, what do we mean by active transportation? Active transportation is any self-propelled, human-powered mode of transportation, such as walking, biking, or rolling in a wheelchair on a physically active, friendly route. Some examples of routes are sidewalks, multi-use trails, school routes, boardwalks, and many more, as you can see on this slide. So, how does active transportation improve people's health? Most of us know that being physically active regularly improves health and quality of life, providing both immediate benefits, such as reducing stress, anxiety, and improving sleep, and improving blood pressure and blood sugar levels, and long-term benefits such as reductions in various chronic diseases, weight gain, and depression. Physical activity has been shown to increase when everyday destinations are connected by active transport-friendly routes. Everyday destinations could include school or a park or the grocery store, as you can see on this slide here. We'll put more information about this connection into the chat if you'd like to dive deeper into this information. In Alaska, our Physical Activity and Nutrition Unit is just one of the many agencies and community partners working to increase access to physical activity and supporting active transportation projects. Some of the things we're currently doing in this area include promoting the Active People Healthy Nation initiative. All of the physical activity promotion work that we do supports a national initiative called Active People Healthy Nation. Active People Healthy Nation is led by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and aims to help 27 million Americans become more physically active by 2027. Our program shares the Active People Healthy Nation information and materials through our various communication channels and uses the strategies outlined in this initiative to increase physical activity, one of which is increasing activity-friendly routes to everyday destinations. For more information about Active People Healthy Nation, please visit the link that's posted in the chat. Our Play Everyday social marketing campaign creates messages that helps Alaska's children grow up at a healthy weight and encourages families to be physically active and choose healthy drinks. We're going to add this link to our Play Everyday website in the chat as well. And we also recently helped to launch a statewide coalition on active transportation, which brings various partners together to help implement strategies identified in the Alaska statewide Active Transportation Master Plan. And you can find the full plan at the link that'll be posted in the chat too. Another program that PAN unit supports is the Anchorage Trails Coalition, which brings partners together to further active transportation projects such as the Moose Loop Initiative. This project connected Anchorage's 4 main multi-use trails to form a 32-mile bike loop within the city that encourages residents and visitors to walk or bike to everyday destinations, such as work, stores, parks, or schools. Anchorage Trails Coalition also houses the Inclusive Play Initiative, which has upgraded many parks around Anchorage to be accessible for individuals who experience disabilities, creating more opportunities for the physical activity for all. So, sorry, it says my screen sharing is paused. As we mentioned earlier, and what we're here to focus on today is the work our partners at the Department of Transportation are doing to increase active transportation projects. These programs were recently enhanced through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and now I'll turn it over to Julius to explain more about these opportunities. Hi, Julius. Let me see if I can share my screen again, one sec.
I'm seeing your screen though.
Yeah, it gave me an error message. Hang on, sorry. Let's try.
All right.
And then maybe. There we go.
Thanks,
Okay.
Justine. And hello, everyone. My name is Julius Adolson, and I am the statewide bicycle and pedestrian coordinator for Alaska DOT, based at Juneau headquarters, or DOT headquarters in Juneau. Next slide, please. In today's presentation, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Alaska DOT, but also what it means to increase opportunities for active transportation in Alaska from a DOT perspective. How I want to inform you guys how a project gets funded and some current opportunities, and how to bring about change, active transportation change on a local level. Next slide, please. So I also wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am actually originally from Sweden. I have been biking pretty much all my life. It was my main mode of transportation growing up in Sweden, and I would bike to school, to stores, for sports, for pretty much everything year-round. And the picture to the right there is from my latest bike tour, international bike tour, where I flew down to Macedonia and biked all the way up to Sweden through Europe. So what do what does a statewide bicycle and pedestrian coordinator do? I work a lot with the recommendations in the Alaska Statewide Active Transportation Plan that Jesse previously mentioned, and then that I will go into a little bit more into later on in this presentation. I also coordinate the Alaska Transportation Alternatives Program, which is federal funding dedicated to active transportation infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects. I also address the statewide, or try to address the statewide challenges and barriers to active transportation, and implement strategies and policies to make active transportation a little bit safer in Alaska. Next slide, please. So I want to touch on a little bit what the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities does. Our mission is to keep Alaska moving through service and infrastructure, and we design, construct, operate, and maintain the state's transportation infrastructure system, buildings, and other facilities used by Alaskans and our visitors. These include more than 5,600 miles of paved and gravel highways, 237 airports, 839 bridges, and over 800 public facilities, 16 harbors, and the Alaska Marineway Highway System that covers 3,500 nautical miles, serving 33 coastal communities. Next slide, please. So Alaska is obviously, as you all know, a very diverse state, and so is our department, which is administratively divided into 3 different regions. The northern region, as you can see in the picture, is headquartered in Fairbanks, and it's the largest and most geographically diverse region that maintains the most center line of miles of highway. Central region is headquartered in Anchorage and includes the state's most urban areas, such as some of the most remote villages on the Kuskokwim Delta. And South Coast region is headquartered in Juneau, and it serves the coastal communities of Alaska, and only 4 South Coast communities are actually connected to the Continental Highway System. And also, the Alaska Marine Highway System is headquartered in Ketchikan, and from there, they manage and direct the operations and maintenance of our fleet of 9 vessels, and serving our 33 coastal communities. Next slide, please. So what does it mean to increase opportunities for active transportation in Alaska? Well, obviously, from a DOT perspective, it means that we provide access to infrastructure that ties into everyday destinations, and that can be used by all ages and abilities. The above picture is from a recent DOT poll where Alaskans were asked to provide the modes of travel most used. So what can we take away from this survey? Well, obviously, the respondents are already using non-motorized transportation as one of their most frequent modes of transportation. And as I mentioned, from a DOT perspective, we want to build on this and also increase opportunities through providing access to infrastructure, active transportation infrastructure. Now I'll go into this a little bit more detail on when I'm going to talk about the opportunities that exist. So next slide, please. We are guided by both federal and state regulations. As Jesse mentioned, the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, as it's called, it was passed in November 2021, and is the largest long-term investment in our infrastructure and economy in the nation's history. It provides over $550 billion over fiscal years 2022 through 2026, in the new federal investment. And the new federal investment includes both infrastructure, obviously, for roads, bridges, mass transit, but also for water infrastructure and resilience and broadband. So the link that's posted in the slides here will take you to a website that serves as a one-stop shop for FHWA's, the Federal Highway Administration's implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, including everything from fact sheets and different funding notices to guidelines and regulations and presentations. Next slide, please. So I wanted to walk you through a little bit. You want to say that you want, as a city or an engaged citizen, want to see a active transportation or multi-use path be constructed. But where do you start? Next slide, please. So the first step is to either work with us at the Department of Transportation or your municipality or perhaps city planner to identify eligible programs for your potential project. From there, you would go into you would get into a needs list that is kept, and there's a bunch of more technicalities with getting on the statewide transportation improvement program and so on that I'm going to spare you for this session, but we can talk about that at another point. So from the needs list, it usually takes 2 to 5 years to construct from a conceptual idea to construction of a project. Of course, there needs to be justification for the project. So it needs to be identified in one of your local plans, be that, a comprehensive economic or, transportation plan. It'd be great if it has a demonstration of public support, some sort of community resolutions, letter of supports are usually great as well. And of course, we need to know that there is both matching funds available, but also that the local city or municipality might take over the maintenance of the facility as well. So all these things are discussed in the justification of the project. A cost-benefit analysis is also preferable, and it'd be great if the project has some sort of specific studies done. And these projects, so say that you want to build a multi-use path, there is a possibility that your city or your borough already has that a project-specific study completed on that specific project. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to either city or muni planner or Department of Transportation. Excuse me. And also, of course, consider discretionary grants opportunities, which I will get into here shortly. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you guys a snapshot of the current formula funding that we're receiving from the Federal Highway Administration. I want to focus on the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is the red bar and that has the number 7.2 over it. The BIL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, authorized a 60% increase in the funding for the Transportation Alternatives Program. And nationally, as you can see in the little spreadsheet down there, we will see an increase from 850 million, which was the last year of our previous transportation bill, the FAST Act, and to almost an increase in 2026 to almost $1.5 billion. So there'll be more funding available through the Transportation Alternatives Program, and these are national numbers. There are also several programs and of course several discretionary programs that are are new as well, and we have several formula funding programs that are new as well to our department. The Carbon Reduction Program and Protect are both formula programs that are new to our department, and that could also includes eligibilities for active transportation facilities. So what's the difference between formula programs and discretionary programs? Formula programs are programs that we as a department receive every year from Federal Highway Administration, and discretionary programs are grants that you apply for on a competitive and national level, and that's the biggest difference in between those two. Next slide, please. So given that this is a record investment, and we have our department has looked to find new partnerships to capture infrastructure funding, and we recently and navigating where to find funding can also be a complex issue for local partners. So therefore, Commissioner Anderson formed a unique partnership with Alaska Municipal League to capture infrastructure funding, including discretionary funds. So in an effort to be more transparent and for communities to simplify the application process, DOT and Alaska Municipal League has jointly created the Transportation Funding Opportunities Hub. And in this hub, as I will go into this a little bit detail and explain that hub and also the current opportunities. Before I do it, I just want to say that there are also discretionary grants opportunities, and I've mentioned them throughout this presentation, and they are most of the, if not all, of the current discretionary infrastructure funding is available on Alaska Municipal League's website called akfederalfunding.org. There are also several other organizations and funding programs that to consider if you're considering constructing active transportation facilities, such as the Alaska Federal Lands Access Program that is administered through the Western Federal Lands, and also the Denali Commission, of course. And next slide, please. So I wanted to pause a little bit and talk about the Alaska Transportation Funding Opportunity Hub. As I mentioned, we wanted to simplify the process for communities to access state transportation formula funds, and therefore we created the Alaska Transportation Funding Opportunity Hub, which you can just scan that QR code and it will take you to a project intake survey. Currently, we have 2 grants that are open, and the deadline for those are October 31st. It's the Transportation Alternatives Program, which I'll go into a little bit more into detail in the next slide, and the Community Transportation Program. So the process for applying for these funds is fairly straightforward. You, as an organization or a private citizen, you have an idea. You scan this QR code and fill out this project intake survey, and it usually just takes 10 to 15 minutes. You choose one or more next step options, and then submit the survey and receive assistance. So the idea is that once you've submitted the survey, you will be paired with one of our regional planners, which will take you through the process of creating a competitive application for these for both the TAP or the CTP, the Transportation Alternatives Program, or the Community Transportation Program. Once, so a project, you have to submit this survey in order to be eligible to apply. So it's a mini application, a notice of intent to apply. Next slide, please. So I wanted to briefly touch on the Transportation Alternatives Program, because it is the only funding only program that we have that is dedicated to active transportation facilities. One of the examples of a TAP project is the Fish Creek Trail Connection in Anchorage, where Alaska DOT and PF in collaboration with Municipality of Anchorage plans to construct a new multi-use path trail, connecting the Fish Creek and Tony Knowles coastal trails. The new trail is proposed in between the existing Fish Creek Trail pathway at West Northern Lights Boulevard and north to the existing coastal trail pathway near Fish Creek. So it's usually for smaller scale active transportation projects. We are we're constricted by or have to follow the state regulations, but also of course any federal regulations that have been provided by the Federal Highway Administration. And it's usually a competitive project where most people compete, or most projects compete on a statewide level, so within Alaska. Next slide, please. I also wanted to briefly talk about Safer After School. For those of you that don't know what Safer After School is, it's a program that aims to make it safer for students to walk and bike to school and encourage more walking and biking where safety is not a barrier. So there are a few new things that that happened with Safer After School in the BIL. So the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, sorry. So the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law codified the Safer After School program. And what does that mean? It means that it opened up and expanded eligibility for Safer After School. So any Safer After School activity is eligible under a wide range of programs. It also opened up, expanded eligibility for safe routes to school to also be eligible for high schools, which was not the case in the previous transportation bill. Although it codified the Safer After School program, it did not restore the dedicated funding to the program. So of course, public health and what can you do as public health professionals and maybe active transportation partners? You can convey your support of the Safer After School program, and also the desire for it to continue with the existing funding sources, such as the Transportation Alternatives Program or others mentioned. Next slide, please. And I would also be remiss if I didn't go into a little bit more detailed on the Alaska Statewide Active Transportation Plan, which Jesse already mentioned. So the plan addresses current conditions and future changes and set out a policy and framework to foster a transportation system that meets the current and future needs of walkers, bikers, bicyclists across Alaska. And it's a blend of policy and action items. Obviously the vision is that people in Alaska will enjoy equitable, accessible, safer walking and biking opportunities as an integral part of their daily life. And as a part of implementing this plan, DOT and PF have identified goal areas, objectives, and performance measures to deliver the Alaska Statewide Active Transportation Plan's vision and guide transportation decisions and ensure the effectiveness of transportation investments over the 20-year life of the Alaska statewide active transportation plan. And the plan can be used in a variety of ways and by different stakeholders. One example is the coordination with the plan and perhaps local non-motorized or active transportation plan. And the plan can, through its performance measures, connect the local active transportation plans to the statewide levels and needs, and thus providing clear direction on how to improve the walking and rolling in the state of Alaska. And I know we're at 1:30 now, but I only have one slide left, so please bear with me. Next slide, please. So in closing, I hope you know this is a rapid sort of presentation on the BIL and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and on how to achieve change on a local level through active transportation infrastructure projects. So I hope you know a little bit more about active transportation, how to get a project funded, current opportunities, and how to bring about change on a local level through the statewide active transportation plan. And I hope that we all realize that it's also how we collectively can increase active transportation in Alaska. And we can do this through a variety of reasons and options. Partnerships is something that I've realized is the key to success. I wouldn't be here talking with you today without the great partnership with Jesse and Katie and all the other folks at the Department of Health. Again, you have an idea for a project, you can always submit a notice of intent to apply. You can contact me and or your regional planner, or maybe city or muni planner, and that helps increase active transportation in Alaska. And also, please stay in touch with current projects and efforts and make your voice heard. I know from my point of view as working for the Alaska DOT, we would love to hear from you if you have any suggestions on certain infrastructure or proposals on certain infrastructure projects. Please follow the listserv here, AK Active Transpo. Jesse and I frequently post opportunities to comment on plans, on surveys, and ways to stay in touch with our current efforts. And of course, we have online public notices and gov deliveries. So if you want to know any other updates to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, I would suggest subscribing to Alaska DOT's listserv on gov delivery as well. And if you have any other questions, feel free to either reach out to me or Jesse. And I think with that, we're at time, but I would love to just stick around to see if we have any questions from the general public.
Yeah, this is Julie. Thank you so much for sticking around. We did lose a few people. We just have two questions that we would love to get you to answer real quick. The first one is, let me pull this up. Sorry. Golly. So basically, here we go. Do cities such as Homer, Seward, Bethel, Dillingham have planners? If people don't know who their city or muni planner is, are you able to connect them?
Yes. Feel free to connect with me, and I'll be happy to be the spider in the web and connect you with your local planner. So just reach out to me.
Let me just put that in here. And then the other question is, it's not showing up for some reason, but basically it was winter, and we also had that question in here. Basically, is winter a barrier to accessing active transportation? And then how do you deal with that, the access of like removing ice and snow from active transportation routes?
Yeah, due to thank you for that question. I think due to our geography and our seasons, winter maintenance is one of the maybe greatest barriers, especially in the winter season, for accessing active transportation facilities and being able to walk and bike in communities year round. We actually have a survey that is available right now, where we are soliciting input on our current winter maintenance on state-owned right-of-way and facilities. So please take that survey and make your voice heard. We would love to hear from more people about what we can improve when it comes to winter maintenance and active transportation.
Great. And it looks like that's all the questions that we have, and we probably need to let people go. I do have a question about when will we get a copy of this presentation? And yes, I will be sending out a copy via email. We also are recording this session, and so we always post them to YouTube, and I will send a link to the YouTube. And then because there's so many links in this presentation, I will also send a list of links that will help you get more information. Thank you guys so much for presenting today.